Hello and welcome back to All Watch What They're Watching, where we're curious and adamant about cinema. I am one of your hosts. I'm Kyrie.
And I'm Adam.
And today we're doing sort of part 2 of our little Ghibli-a-thon. So we mentioned last week we were trying to figure out how to break this down because Adam and I both have fallen in love with Studio Ghibli. And so last week we kind of talked about the ones that just weren't as good and that we didn't care for. But as we were watching Ghibli in the past couple weeks, we've really there are like some big themes in Ghibli, and one of them that like you really pointed out, Adam, was environmentalism.
Yeah, and I think there's 25 movies or 26 movies, whatever it is, and I think the idea was how can we take this in bite-sized chunks to cover theme, right, to still hit on things that we want to, still talk about movies, but talk more about themes. What I think is going to end up happening is we're going to just stretch this into even more episodes, and we're just going to end up talking about every movie just because it's hard not to. So we'll still do themes. We're still going to talk about themes. Environmentalism, I think, is one of the key things people associate with Ghibli. So this will be kind of a heavy hitter episode as far as the ones that we're covering today. But, there's still, when I look at my list, there's still 6 of my top 10 are the environmental ones. So still lots of things to happen. So lots of different ways to look at it. But yeah, we'll have different opinions. And so that'll be a good opportunity to talk.
Because some of the other ones that we kind of talked about, like implications of war is a big one. Just, there's some anti-war stuff, but I feel like there's also just like the fallout of war and all that entails. A lot of his films have young female leads, and it's kind of this, not quite coming of age, but kind of this transformative arc for these characters. There's a lot that have kind of this fantasy and whimsy to them. So yeah, lots of themes in Ghibli. Like we've said, we're going to end up talking about every film at some point. But that being said, environmentalism really is kind of a big one, I'd say.
For sure. Before we get there, though, you did get the opportunity to go to the theater to hit one of the movies that came out technically last year, but it's getting a wider release now. You want to chat about that for just briefly?
Yeah, I'll save a lot of it for our Oscar conversations because I know you haven't seen it yet, and it is an Oscar contender for Best Animated Feature, but it's the French film Arco. Again, I will save a lot of it for our discussion because I have so much to say, and I really want to, I am kind of chomping at the bit for you to somehow see it because I really want to know your thoughts. I will say a couple things going into it. I wasn't terribly impressed by the trailer. I was not aware that the film was going to be dubbed, and I don't think it's a terribly great dub, which, speaking of Ghibli, there are some really good Ghibli dubs.
Yeah.
I don't think this one was terribly strong. I really didn't care for some of the animation. I felt like the faces didn't emote. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to get too into the nitty-gritty. Suffice to say, I did give it 2.5 stars. I just don't really understand the praise that this film is getting. I did some reading on people who agree with me and some people who don't, and I don't know. I'm torn between, was this a movie that just wasn't for me? Because sometimes that happens where I just watch a movie and, it's one of those movies that gets so much praise and so many accolades, and I watch it and I'm just like, okay, clearly I'm not the target audience, or I'm missing something. For some reason, this movie isn't for me. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm just caught in this crossfire of is it just a thing that I just don't get it? Or is it just actually not very good and people are, I don't know, praising it for things it doesn't deserve praise for? So again, not to get into the nitty-gritty, but my review is on Letterboxd, and yeah, just I didn't care for it is my 2 cents. But I know you saw a couple things as well.
Yeah, I won't get too far into it. Did see one of my kind of kicking myself moments was not seeing F1 in theaters this last summer. It was kind of a big summer blockbuster. I should have gone. I really did quite enjoy it. I think especially the way I can best describe it is, yes, people criticize it for being formulaic. Yes, there is sort of this, some of the decisions by characters, it's like, oh, it's okay because they win, or you know what? It's just some of those things that are kind of formulaic, and it's a movie that doesn't have a strong message coming at the end or anything like that, but the technical
Okay.
aspects are razor sharp and like the best you can get, to where I think they should probably, I haven't looked at the odds, but they should be competing for the technical categories they're in for the Oscars. So I just had a really good time with that. I should have watched it earlier, and I actually was talking with a coworker at work today and yesterday about it, who's a big F1 fan, and he was kind of talking to me about how like
Interesting.
it actually gets a ton of things really right. And so it was kind of this cool. He recommended a Netflix. They do like in season sort of documentaries. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it's called. I think it's on Netflix on F1, but he said it was really good. And then I've just been cranking out 2, 3, sometimes 4 short films or documentaries or
Right.
other nominees. If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You is fantastic. I think that
I saw
Rose
that.
Byrne, I think that she is probably my favorite for Best Actress right now.
Ooh, okay.
She's
All
kind of
right.
flip-flopping with Jessie Buckley with some different things. We'll talk a lot more about all of these things in details and specifics about these performances that I like or that I think are Oscar worthy. This movie's horrible to watch, though, I'll tell you. It's one of those movies that I
Really?
one of the funniest reviews I saw is it's uncut gems for mothers. So just kind of really stressful. You never really get relief. It's just kind of like everyone around you that should be giving you support and offering relief. No one is listening, and it feels like you're screaming into a black hole. So really good.
Gotcha.
And then a lot of the documentaries, some really heavy subject matters, but
Yeah.
really, really well done. The one that's really, really sticking with me is Mr. Nobody Against Putin. I don't even want to say anything about it just because I think it's one everyone should look out, about a guy in Russia that's sort of documenting the great rise of propaganda with the Ukraine war and just kind of his personal sort of life and how that changes because of that.
Mhm.
Really, really fascinating and just one I just keep constantly thinking about. So, yeah, I've been watching a lot. We'll talk a lot more about all of these. February 13th is coming up, obviously, which is that big
Yes.
weekend that we've talked about with
Mhm.
Wuthering Heights and Goat and
Yeah.
that Gore Verbinski one that I'm not remembering, something Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, and
Right.
Crime 101. So I haven't decided which one of those I'm going to see February 13th. I think it's going to be sort of a wait till the reviews drop and see which one kind of rises to the top. But
Right.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited to see how that goes. So yeah, that's kind of the
Yeah.
update for me.
I also just have been watching so many things for school because that is my
Right.
life now. I will just give one quick plug, because I watched a couple documentaries I wasn't hot on, a couple old Korean films. I would say the one movie I do really wanna plug is called This Changes Everything. It came out in
Okay.
2018. It's like, if you want to know what it's like for women in film, that is the thing to watch. You've
Awesome.
got Gina Davis talking for a lot of it because Gina Davis did a ton of stuff that I had no idea about, and they do talk about, like, Thelma and Louise. Natalie Portman talks in some things, Meryl Streep. They kind of end by talking about what Wonder Woman has kind of done to change superhero films, how, Wonder Woman was the first superhero movie directed by a woman, and it made $800 million. So,
Yeah, that's
basically
great.
kind of that thing, and it just really fascinating. It showed some really interesting stats just on kind of how, like, there's this, I don't know, like, wives' tale, basically, this idea that movies with female leads don't make as nearly as much money as as films with male leads, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
Female directors have a really hard time, in particular, getting any kind of work. I think it was Meryl Streep that talked about it, that she basically is like, "I don't win awards because the part is written well. The part is generic, and I figure out how to make it, like, impactful."
That's awesome.
Which I also thought was just, like, really interesting, but one stat that, like, shocked me to my core was, it was basically like, when do you think the Oscars started in, 1929. When did a woman win Best Director for the first time? And I was like, probably like maybe 70s, maybe 90s. 2009 blew my mind. Catherine Bigelow for The Hurt Locker. That is the first time 80 years of Oscars before a woman won Best Director. And like we're seeing that stuff with Greta Gerwig too. Little Women was nominated for Everything Under the Sun, not Best Director.
Wow.
Even though she's had 3 movies that have been in the running for Best Picture. Like it's mind-blowing to me. So just really interesting, some interesting stuff. I think it's very well made. Like when I first watched it, I was like, maybe I just am not on par with documentaries, and this is something that I'm passionate about, so I loved it. But then I watched 2 other documentaries that I was like, oh, these are not as good. So I will say that a lot of people give it crap because it is directed by a man. And so they're basically like, after all this, like, huge slap in the face to see that it's directed by a man. I am of the opinion that, like, in the gay community, like, we need straight allies. And I say, like, among womanhood, we need male allies. So I think he gave...
I was going to say, let's turn our attention to Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah, right. But anyway, just want to plug that. This changes everything. It's free in quite a few areas, and I think it's really solid. But yeah, let us turn our eyes to Mr. Hayao Miyazaki.
Champion of women, Hayao Miyazaki.
Right. So yeah, should we just dive right on in?
Yeah, let's do it. I think what we wanted to talk about first was the first, I'll say first in parentheses, Studio Ghibli film. Because as mentioned last time by Kyrie, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind was sort of this huge moment for Studio Ghibli's team that basically everyone that worked on it at a different studio, it was super successful. And because it was super successful, all of those people were able to officially create Studio Ghibli and what Studio Ghibli is today. So Studio Ghibli considers Nausicaa part of Studio Ghibli. Many people consider it Studio Ghibli, and we consider it Studio Ghibli. So we're going to talk about it right now.
Yeah. That's kind of like in my notes I wrote, technically not Ghibli, but basically is. Like if you want to be nitpicky about it, it's not. But I feel like at its heart and soul, it is a Ghibli film.
And I think too, to that point, almost every single element in this movie is like Studio Ghibli to its core. You kind of hit the gamut of everything that happens over the next 40 years.
Yes, for sure. So we'll get into some environmental themes. Just a couple other things I want to talk about, though. I mentioned this last time, but I do think it's interesting. When the U.S. got it, they butchered this film. They completely cut it up. They cut out like 40 minutes of content or something. Butchered it. Hayao Miyazaki was pissed. So when Mononoke came out and people wanted to distribute it, I guess he was actually in talks with Harvey Weinstein and they wanted to butcher it again. And so Hayao stormed out of the room. And when it didn't get cuts, and people talked to him later about like kind of what happens, and he goes, I beat him. So like that's the thing is like and we'll talk about it when we get to Mononoke, but
didn't he gift Harvey Weinstein a Japanese katana and a note that said no cuts?
Yes, which I think is amazing. Yeah, a katana that had no cuts engraved into it. Yeah. Like, what a gift. Couple things that I saw. I was reading one review about it and someone described it as an epic, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's totally what this is. Like, this is on par with kind of some of those space operas like Star Wars. Something that's interesting is Nausicaa, I guess, is actually a character in, it's either the Odyssey or the Iliad. Regardless, it's the Odyssey. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing.
So, I think that's interesting. Like, clearly there's some inspiration from Homer here. And so, yeah, I agree. It's an epic in every sense of the word. It's a little on the longer side. It's big. It's sweeping. You've got, I do want to talk about this a little bit because I kind of want your thoughts and opinion. What did you think of the music, the score?
I wish I had a better touch on it. I wanted to rewatch this one, but just didn't have the chance. I think I remember
Mm.
liking it. I know it is more of a, like, feels very in time in the 80s. I do think it doesn't rise maybe to the top of Studio Ghibli scores, but I don't remember disliking it.
Yeah, kind of the same. Like, that was the thing is as I was listening to it again, I was like, wow, there's the use of synth in here is coming in hot. Definitely has an 80s feel, but like same thing. As I was watching it, I texted you and some of my friends and I was like, man, Joe Hisaishi, he knows how to write a score, doesn't he? So yeah, I agree. I just was curious on your thoughts because it does have that
Yeah.
80s kind of vibe. But yeah, I think
I
it's a
do
little too heavy in the synth, but I really liked it.
Sure. I will go just a little bit backwards into the development of this. So this
Yeah,
is
please.
is it manga or manga?
Manga.
Okay, so this is a Japanese manga, which is essentially
Hmm.
Japanese comic book. That was what it started as, and his intention would be this would be something that he would sort of draw out over years and years, and he actually does. I'm not sure how, I think many of the things that happen in this movie happen in it, but I think it is a lot more drawn out and a lot more things. I've heard it's a lot darker. I've heard it's a lot more hopeful as well. So that is something just to be, it is sort of adapted, but it's adapted from something that he made. So, it is still sort of this
Yeah.
original idea. But yeah, it's a really neat setting. I won't jump into more of what you were going to say. I'll just turn it back over to you.
Yeah, so both directed and written by Hayao Miyazaki. Just kind of quick overview. Nausicaa is this princess in this Valley of the Wind. She seems to have this ability to communicate and almost like calm nature. And her whole thing is she would, yeah, rather than battling these beings, they're giant bugs. Rather than battling them, she believes in like calming them. She believes in peace. And they are kind of overtaken. Her kingdom is overtaken by this very militaristic country and group, and so there's some themes there. There's a lot going on here, and I don't want to go entirely into it because there is a lot of different storylines going on. But yeah, basically the idea is just that Nausicaa wants to save the world, basically. There seems to be almost this sickly naturalistic plague that is kind of overtaking the world,
Yeah.
and she wants to heal the world.
Yeah, you said it beautifully last time, right? That, Nazca's people want her to save them or something, but Nazca wants to save the world. I'll be pulling a couple different quotes from the book I read. There's this really cool
Mhm.
section where it kind of talks through, like, I think they're called director's memos, which are like 6 or 7 pages, basically just of this is the overall summary of what we're doing. These are like the feelings and the things that we're trying to do. So what he says about this is a major theme of this work is the manner in which people engage with the nature surrounding them and upon which they are
Mm.
dependent. Can hope exist even during this twilight era? If I am to find hope, what perspective is needed? And so I think that it's a really, there's some sort of big reveals in this throughout that sort of flip your paradigm and flip your thinking about this. This is one of those ones that, again, when I talk about in the last episode about becoming vegetarian and having a different perspective on the environment, one that's like, I don't love bugs. When bugs are on me, I freak out. I think spiders are creepy as hell. Like, it's just not something I super love. And I
Yeah.
remember one of my friends who's really, really, passionate about nature and these things. He posted an Instagram story about like, don't kill spiders in your house. Like, they're so good for your surrounding environment and the ecosystem. Like, take them outside, do all this stuff. And I was like, I don't know, but I don't know if I can do that. But this is one of those movies that like really forces you to sit down and think again, like about our
Mhm.
environment, how we approach things. And I think it does a really good job of creating like an environment that is dangerous and scary. and working that, and how do you reconcile with that, and like what is important about the earth that we live on.
Yeah, and kinda along with that same theme, I kinda put this into my, like, anti-war theme bucket as well,
Sure.
because, like, you see, like, Nausicaa, without a moment of hesitation, is willing to give her life to this thing.
Right.
And the whole and, like, I don't know, call me idealistic, but that is a beautiful concept to me. Like, I love this idea that at the end of the day, she still is so unwilling. She's fighting for her beliefs, but she's so unwilling to enact violence on anyone and on
Yeah.
anything. Like, she believes in the power of, like, the power of peace, like, the power of listening, the power of understanding, the power of being willing to unite with something or someone that we maybe don't fully understand.
Yeah, and I think an important thing about this film to say to anybody that hasn't seen this is that this movie is very much directed to an older target audience. And Miyazaki
Yes.
even says that is his next project, Castle in the Sky. He was very intentional about that being for children because Nausicaa was this kind of deeper,
Yeah.
a little bit more mature target audience. So I think when you're approaching that animation or things from that perspective, it does give you sort of this new sandbox that you're playing in that makes for
Mhm.
some really
Mhm.
unique, beautiful scenes versus really like heart sort of wrestling how you deal with some of these difficult decisions. Again, nature and how we interact with something that is seemingly dangerous, but
Mhm.
maybe other things are at play.
And I mean, speaking of that, if we wanna kinda go along that same line, I would say the next one is most definitely for kids,
For sure.
and that is My Neighbor Totoro.
Right, right.
Also written, directed by Hayao Miyazaki.
Yes. I just wanted, again, and it kind of perfectly goes with this. And he writes about this. It says, Project Plan for My Neighbor Totoro. Project Aim. My Neighbor Totoro aims to be a happy and heartwarming film, a film that lets the audience go home with pleasant, glad feelings. Lovers will feel each other to be more precious. Parents will fondly recall their childhoods, and children will start exploring the thickets behind shrines and climbing trees to find a Totoro. This is the kind of film I want to make.
I love this movie. We'll at the very end, we'll kinda let people know where each of these movies fall in our rankings, but I love My Neighbor Totoro. It was released as a double feature with Grave of the Fireflies,
Which, woof, what
which
a
is
feature.
baffling to me.
Punch you in the gut and
One
give you
thing
a
that
hug.
Right. I read something one time that I think sums it up perfectly. It was basically like, I think this was actually I'll gi I'll give a shout out, credit where credit is due. This is the critic Tim Brayton, who also runs a podcast called Alternate Ending. But he wrote in his letterbox review that if Grave of the Fireflies is this isn't an exact quote, but like if Grave of the Fireflies is evidence that the earth is unendingly cruel, My Neighbor Totoro is evidence that the world is unendingly kind.
Mm, I love
And
that.
I think that yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly.
And I think,
It's
too, before we get off that thought, if you haven't seen any
Mhm.
of these movies and you're wanting to, it probably actually is a really good idea to watch Grave of the Fireflies and then plan on watching My Neighbor Totoro very quickly after, because it really is just like,
Grave of the Fireflies will break you in half.
yeah, it is so, so heavy, and this really is sort of that lighthearted. Yeah, I really just like that
There's
this.
very little conflict.
Exactly. It's almost, there's just very little plot, there's very little conflict. It's just sort of living, and I really do love that about this movie.
Yeah, it is in a lot of this is actually heralded as, like, the best Ghibli. It's on for those of you who follow, the British Film Institute does a, series every decade where they ask a bunch of critics, best films ever made. The 2 that are in the top, I think it's 100, it might be the whole 250, but it's Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro, and Totoro is higher by, like, 2 spots. Roger Ebert has it on his, like, top 100 films you must see. Akira Kurosawa, who we've talked about on the podcast before, it was on his list. It ended up becoming, the Totoro ended up becoming Studio Ghibli's mascot. It just, yeah, it is, like I said, in some circles, it is heralded as like the quintessential, the best Ghibli. And it really is just exactly what you said. So heartwarming. It's feel good. Very little conflict involved. There's no villain, so to speak, but it is about just kind of these spirits of the forest.
Yeah, there's two things Miyazaki says that are really interesting about sort of the framing of this film and the way that you talked about all those accolades and all that recognition. I think it really comes out of what his intention was to what I just read, but he also has this idea of like, hey, I want a film that showcases Japan, that showcases sort of the beauty and the things that make Japan what it is. And so that is what a huge focus of this is. Also, when you talk about like some of those Far East religions and different types of things like that, they talk, a lot about sort of good and evil and the balance between that. And he talks a lot, or light and darkness, and he talks about that in the way of like, forests are scary and they like, that's
Right.
not, there's like a darkness to a forest. It's not all happy and things like that. And that even in the case of like Totoro, it's not like he is this benevolent, happy, wonderful being. He's just like this,
No.
and it's not like he's mean. It's not like he's, has any intention of harm or anything like that. But just this like changing, you watch something like this and it's just like you can tell this person has a different perspective than I do, and how so he
Yeah.
he talks about that darkness, and it's not, again, it's not necessarily this bad thing, but it's this balance thing and sort of this respect thing about nature and how we look at finding that sort of magic that is there.
Yeah. Because, like, brief plot summary is these two little girls and their dad move to the country and they're kind of welcomed in by the community there. But the youngest girl ends up kind of exploring and gets a little lost in the forest after following like this little Totoro in there. And she ends up falling on this big Totoro's tummy, and it's so cute. And it's basically just these two girls interacting with the spirit of the forest, and their mom is sick in a hospital nearby, so that's kind of the only point of conflict, is that they're dealing with what's it like to have this mom who is sick. But yeah, it's literally just them interacting with these forest spirits.
Right.
But also, I would be remiss if we didn't bring up, I mean, how great is that cat bus?
Yeah, so that's just I one of the most remarkable scenes in like cinema history, honestly, is just remarkable. Speechless. That
Yeah.
scene, yeah, like it just, there's so much wonder attached to it. There's so much, again, there's so
Yeah.
much restraint with these movies. There's so much intentionality that it just feels like you said last time, wow, it feels really special to be alive and being able to witness this piece of art. Like, it's just really
Yeah.
remarkable.
Totoro has this ability, like a lot of Miyazaki's, but Totoro in my girlfriend just goes, the cat bus is creepily cute.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Totoro has this amazing ability to like kind of allow you to see things through a child's eyes.
Right.
And I feel like it's difficult to kind of find that, but that's the thing, is like the wonder of seeing the Totoros for the first time. The moment when the Totoro has his little leaf that he's using as an umbrella, and then when she gives him the umbrella and he's so excited that, he hears the raindrops on the umbrella. And what would it be like to fly? What would it be like to have this cat bus just be able to take you to your sick mom who you just want to see? Just this amazing ability to fill you with this joy and to feel like you're experiencing everything the way a little kid would experience it.
Yeah. Perfectly said.
I just think it could not say enough nice things about My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah. Well said.
But now we shift gears a little bit. So a lot of these are Miyazaki because this is Miyazaki's thing. He has a thing for environmentalism. But shifting gears a little bit, Isao Takahata wrote and directed the next one, and that is 1994's Poko.
Yes.
We have uh brief summary is that, these tanuki, which are raccoon dogs, see their, their forest, their home being overrun by, humans creating new cities and communities and basically destroying the nature that makes up the tanuki's home. So Pompoko has like a reputation, I guess.
Yeah, let's just rip the Band-Aid off as far as what this movie, the takeaways from this movie, which again, there is a cultural understanding of some various things, but go ahead.
So an important aspect of tanuki in Japanese culture is that they have these balls that they use. And by balls, I mean
Testicles.
I don't yes. The tanuki, some of them can transform, and they use their testicles to transform into a variety of things, like a blanket for people to sit on, parachutes, a massive ship for everyone to sail away in. And on the one hand, it's kind of hilarious. On the other hand, if you're not expecting it, it's very much just like, what is happening? What is going on? Why are the balls everywhere?
It's wild.
And why are they like, they are such a primary part of the film. And, like, I was talking to some friends about it, and, like, I knew that it was a thing. I didn't realize how big of a thing it was. And part of that is it's played for humor, which I'll concede there's parts that are hilarious.
Yeah.
But it also is it does have more cultural importance that you and I are not privy to. So it seems out of left field sometimes, and that being said, like I don't think it is. I think it's very cultural. We don't have the cultural context to appreciate parts of it.
Yeah. No, well said. I do think it's remind me what the movie you had said this reminds you of.
Yeah. As I was watching, it reminded me a lot of a film called Watership Down. Just in the same sense, it's also, the film is in the Criterion Collection. Watership Down, it's an animated movie about bunnies. Do not let your kids watch it. It is very adult themed. It's been compared, it's based on a book. The book has been compared to like Lord of the Rings, but with rabbits. Like it does have the journey, the hero's journey, but also just this epic odyssey that these characters go on. But it's these rabbits who, similar idea, similar concept, where their home is being overrun by humans building communities, and so they go on the run, so to speak, and it's just their journey of trying to find some place where they can exist. This movie is a little bit more combative. The tanuki, I think some of them do leave, but most of them are like, no, we're not going to let the humans take our way of life and our homes, so we're going to fight back.
Yeah, like environmental terrorism, basically guerrilla warfare is
Yes.
there's some amount of violence in Poko that, again, you're like, oh wow, this is, I'm not going to tell tanuki raccoons they don't have the right to be environmental terrorists when their environment is
right.
So it does give you that perspective that does be like, oh yeah, like that is tough. Yeah, what I keep wanting to mention that I will mention is the other similar movie, if we were doing an arts versus charts, would be Over the Hedge, for a more American version of what this looks like. Obviously, no testicles or balls in Over the Hedge.
No.
And no real sort of magical element to it, but same sort of. I don't remember how Over the Hedge resolves.
I don't either.
But I feel like it is more of a whitewashing ending.
Yeah.
Of like saying, oh, we're okay because of this, versus Poko is like a bittersweet type. Not even sweet. It's more of a bitter, just kind of like
melancholy. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, you're just kind of like, I don't feel great about that.
Yeah, because most of the time they're these cartoony creatures, but when they turn back into like raccoons and they're very realistic looking raccoons, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and a lot of them basically just decide they're just going to assimilate as humans, and there's this kind of weird fox like subplot where the foxes have already assimilated and they're running like an amusement park or something.
Right.
So really interesting sort of melancholy take on it. So again, it is kind of this, it's not either of our favorite Studio Ghibli.
Mm-mm.
And I think part of it is some of that tonal sort of incongruence of like it is very slapsticky at parts and very silly and fun.
Right.
But the ending is very somber and it's this sort of message of lack of hope. So it's a little, but
Because
it's go for it.
a lot of the others have, like Nausicaa, I find to be very hopeful.
Yeah.
Totoro, obviously, we've talked about that. It's very heartwarming, and we'll get to the others in a minute. But Palm Poko ends, and I really do feel, as funny as it is throughout, I really do feel like the ending is a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's less hopeful and more of just like how heartbreaking that this is how it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think too, one of the things I kept thinking about was, excuse me, like Tokyo, Japan is one of the like best examples of cities that build a lot of apartments, build up a lot more than they build out. Obviously, it sprawls an
Right,
insane amount, but more so than like, probably 99% or 100% of US cities, which are all about urban sprawl.
right.
I can't get too far into this. This is kind of my like career and job and passion, so I'll talk too much. But
Okay.
it's very built up. And so I was kind of thinking about that of like, yeah, even in the best example, there's still so much human, disruption of ecosystems. And it's like,
Right.
how much of that is necessary versus how much isn't, versus how do we, back to all of these different themes and different, the appreciation in Totoro versus the acknowledgement in Nausicaa versus the harmful dangers here, and how do we reconcile with that? So a lot of questions are asked as you watch these Studio Ghibli films, and they don't
Yes.
necessarily try to give you the answer all the time.
No, and I've said before, I kind of like that. I like when they present discussions and questions without really forcing you to choose their same opinion.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that this one, it's like I wrote down, I was like simultaneously hilarious and very sad. Like I do think it's a heartbreaking film. I also think it's funny and goofy, and yeah, I don't know. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite. There are so
Yeah.
many I like much, much more.
Yeah. Let's talk about one that you liked much, much more. Princess Mononoke. Tell me about
And I
Princess.
have something I just got for my birthday that I want to show you. This was just released on January 27th. It is
No way.
yes. For those of you who can't see, and I may include a picture or a YouTube link, but it is the film comic of Princess Mononoke, and it is so pretty, and I love it so very, very much.
That's awesome.
Just released, but yes, let's talk about Princess Mononoke. I just wrote the very first note I have just says perfection. And I'll get into my opinion here in a minute, but this was originally Miyazaki's like quote final film. He did this one and then was like, okay, I'm done. And then he came back to do Spirited Away, and thank goodness he did. And then he came back to do like 4 others. But this is the first time Ghibli used computers. There's a couple moments where you can kind of see it's still mostly the 2D cell shading, but it is used in the computers used to enhance the 2D, which is how I think it should be. Fun fact, San, the female in this film, is actually inspiration for Ahsoka. There have
Mm,
been many people in the Star Wars creative groups who have said that that Ahsoka San was an inspiration for Ahsoka.
no kidding.
Directed and written Miyazaki, 1997. But yeah, I think brief overview. It starts out with this character named Ashitaka. There is this demon that tries to attack his it's not a kingdom, but a little town, I guess. And he is able to stop the demon, but in doing so, it did infect him. So he has this sickness that's kind of growing up his arm. He is told that he has to like go on a journey to fix this. So he leaves, he ends up kind of stumbling into this war, so to speak. And there are these humans who have built this camp, this fort, and they are just kind of consuming nature's resources. There are a few different groups who want to take down this forest god, and the female leader of this group, that is one of her goals. But then on the other hand, you have nature. So there is like a clan of boars and hogs who are deeply unhappy with the humans and what they're doing. And there is a wolf mother and her children, and in that group, in these wolves, there is a human woman named Sun, who they seem to have taken as one of their daughters. So you kind of have this Ashitaka character who does not necessarily want the humans and the animals to be at war, but he is also very much still identifies kind of as a human. And you have Sun, who I would say also necessarily isn't here for the conflict, but she is very clearly siding with nature and siding with the wolves, and she does not view herself as a member of humanity. She views herself as one of the forest creatures. So that's basically the film, but I'll give my thoughts on it in a moment. I'll let you chat it up a little bit.
Yes, we've been fairly vague on a lot of these. I'll just say spoilers here on what I'm going to read from, again, this sort of director's memo from Miyazaki. I just think these are so powerful. In particular, this one, I really like what this one has to say. It says, Princess Mononoke does not purport to solve the problems of the entire world. The battle between rampaging forest gods and humanity cannot end well. There can be no happy ending. Yet, even amid the hatred and slaughter, there are things worthy of life. It is possible for wonderful encounters to occur and for beautiful things to exist. I will depict hatred, but only to show that there is something more valuable. I will depict a curse to show the joy of liberation from it. I will depict the boy's understanding of the girl and the process by which the girl opens her heart to the boy. In the end, the girl will likely say to the boy, I love you, but I cannot forgive humanity. Smiling, the boy will probably say, that's all right. Let's live together in peace. This is the kind of film I want to make. I think he always ends his treatments that way, but yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I got chills just as you were talking, because one of the things I love about a lot of Ghibli films is there are times in the film where there is no villain.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are misunderstood, and what I find really interesting about Princess Mononoke in particular is I do feel like there are antagonists. I
Sure.
don't, however, feel like even the woman who runs the human camp and fort, I don't think she is necessarily evil. I think she's wrong. I think she doesn't understand. And I think she is making questionable choices, but I don't think she is an evil person.
Yeah, I know I'm
And
just the quote guy, but what you just said, I think this is one of the most profound things that Ghibli ever, or that, not Ghibli, that Miyazaki says. It just in a random different part of the book, he says, this is an example of how I try to interact with people, not on the basis of whether they are correct or not, but whether they are good people or. And so I think he's in that case, he's talking about, he goes to his local river cleanup and he's talking with some guy who ends up being some, liberal candidate for office, and Miyazaki's like, yeah, I'll vote for him because I think he's a generally good person. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I think he's a good person that I can support. But I think to your point here, it really tries hard not to paint people in just a really, really sort of Disney villain light of clear, like, evil or things like that. It's like, this is a clear, different priorities or different things and a not understanding of how to work together.
Yeah. And I'm about to say a massive spoiler. So if you haven't seen this, skip ahead like 30 seconds because I'm about to drop a bomb. when she shoots the forest god.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times in like Disney movies or movies where there is a clear-cut villain, that is the moment where you hate the villain. I was overcome by sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And like again, typically when you have, you know, one of those really great, amazing villains, that's the moment where you want to yell at the villain. You love to hate the villain. I couldn't bring myself to hate her. I just was sad.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is heartbreaking that this thing is happening. And the moment at the end where I was just like, is that scene that you exactly described when Ashitaka's like, hey, I love you. And she was basically like, I care for you, but you're a part of humanity and I can't forgive humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That was the moment where I was like, Ashitaka and in some ways San as well, they're almost like they're this bridge between humanity and nature. And there are people who are convinced that nature and humanity are incompatible on a fundamental level. And I just refuse to believe that's true. I I love Ashitaka's character. I think he is so hopeful. I think he's so good. And you can tell that he loves humanity and he loves San. He loves the nature. You know, the forest god heals him and accepts him.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have a scene where the humans heal him and accept him. And he kind of acts, at the end of the movie, he kind of acts as this bridge between these two communities. But I just think, I mean, I said it before, there was moments during the movie where I like felt myself getting teary-eyed, but the moment that I just lost it was I was just sitting there during the credits just like, holy crap, what did I just watch? And the music swelled during that theme, the da 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 da. And the music just swelled, and I was in IMAX, so I could like feel it through my whole body, and I just lost it. And I don't know what else to say. Yeah, this is my favorite Studio Ghibli film, and I don't see that ever changing. I think an argument can be made that some of them are better, but my viewing experiences, the way this film just hit me, like there are movies that sometimes feel like they were like made for you. Like, I don't know, have you ever experienced that where you watch a movie and you're just like, this feels like it was made for me?
Yeah.
Like, that's how Princess Mononoke felt. Is I just finished it and I was just overcome by what I had seen. I was so just along for the ride from start to finish. Sometimes in theaters, I tend to almost like look at my clock, like how much longer is this going? I was in it the entire time. I loved this thing. It's one of the longest animated movies ever made. And I don't fully know what else to say. Like one of my notes was I just said, absolutely perfect, fight me. This movie to me is magic. Like every once in a while I stumble across a movie that I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I love movies. This is why this is my passion, because this is changing my life. And that's how I felt with Princess Mononoke.
Yeah. Fantastic. Really well said. Do you want to give our star ratings and our current position in the Studio Ghibli list?
Ending on the most beautiful note. But yeah, where did you land on Nausicaa?
Okay, so Nausicaä, I have currently a 4.5. I think if I rewatch it, it might bump to a 5, and it is in 4th place on my total Studio Ghibli rank.
Yes, and this is with the caveat that I need to rewatch a few, so there are some not in my list yet. The final list will be on Letterboxd when we're done, but as of right now, it is in 4th place. I foresee that dropping a good chunk because I have some more 5-star. Right now, I've only got 3 5-stars, and Nausicaa that's my 4.5, but it's like my top 4.5. I don't know that I can quite bring myself to give it 5. I might, but it's the best of the 4.5s for sure.
Awesome.
Where do you land on Totoro?
Totoro is currently in 10th position. That just keeps rising for me. I'll say nothing. Let's see. I think it's 16. Everything 16 and up is a 4-star or higher. So when I'm saying that Totoro is in 10th, I'm saying I really, really love this movie and I love everything in front of it so much that like these are like movies that are becoming my favorite movies out there, basically. Like, these are just, again, I love Studio Ghibli. So, yeah, Totoro's a 10,
Yeah.
10th place, but still widely regarded and loved. And you'll be even madder at another ranking I have.
Excellent. Yeah, I have My Neighbor Totoro in third place right now. My Neighbor Totoro is one of those that when I put on my like snobby film glasses, I'm like, this is a 5-star masterpiece.
Sure.
And so I feel like I have to give it 5 stars because it's a masterpiece. It didn't, as much as I love it and it's heartwarming, it doesn't resonate the same as just a handful of others. So that's why it's not like my number 1 or 2. It's sitting at 3, and like I said, I see that dropping just a smidge more because I do think that there's a couple others that might sneak ahead.
Like Poko.
No. So Poko, what I've started doing, and I've mentioned this before, and if you've seen my Letterboxd, I give a quality rating and then I give a personal enjoyment rating. So Poko, I said 4 stars. I think it's really well done. I think that, it's not the movie's fault. It's my fault that some of the cultural stuff doesn't impact. But personal enjoyment, I couldn't bring myself to give it higher than 3.5. So it is squarely in 12th place, I think.
It is
again with the caveat that I have not logged a lot of them.
Yeah, it is 19th for me. So we have the 5 we did last week, and then this is 19th. So
yeah, I have it. I did prefer Yamada's over Poko, but yeah, the other ones are quite bad.
Now, caveat, I really, really, really wanted to rewatch Princess Mononoke, and I didn't. So I'm going to live my truth and say where it is currently. List can always change, but I currently have it a 4-star in 12th place.
Yeah, I will fight you.
Yeah, no, I'm
I
probably
said
wrong.
before, it's my favorite. It's number 1. And I know people who Mononoke is not their favorite. I also know people who Mononoke is their favorite. I've been hearing about Mononoke for literally decades of people who love this film, and it's been one of those things that I have been like, oh, I need to watch it. I've owned it for forever, and I just had never gotten around to it. And this is one of the few films, most of the time when I haven't gotten around to a movie in forever, and then I finally watch it, I'm like, you idiot. Why didn't you make this a priority? This is amazing. That is the one that I am genuinely so happy that I waited, just because I've said before, like, that experience watching it in the 4K restoration in IMAX in a packed theater, that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I am so grateful that got to be my first time seeing it. And, I mean, it's a 5-star movie for me. I think my review, because I was just kind of reading over some of my reviews, I don't even think I said that much.
This movie has over 2 million views on Letterboxd. It has a 4.4 Letterboxd rating, which is
which is insane.
Yeah, so it has 615,000 5-star reviews, has 386,000 4-star reviews. So it's not like I'm way out in left field, but it is,
right.
Highly, highly, highly regarded, and it is fantastic. Again, like I said, basically my top 16, I could go out to bat for any day. It's just sort of how it landed on sort of my first run through of all of these. And I think watching back to back to back, when I watch Princess Mononoke, I kind of have this thought of, how does this kind of compare with my viewing of Nausicaa versus Castle in the Sky versus even Porco Rosso?
If you think Castle in the Sky is better than Princess Mononoke, we're going to have words. Okay, fine. I guess we're going to have words. That's fine.
I really like Castle in the Sky. I'm excited to talk about Castle in the Sky. There's a distinct feeling I'm excited to walk through with you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's 72 out of, a bazillion films on Letterboxd. I want to say I read that it's in the IMDb top 250. Like, I could talk for hours just about Princess Mononoke. I think it enhanced so much of what the studio did, and it's one of those that, like, Nausicaa is not, you don't have a perfect cutesy little ending that you tie in a bow, but, like, there is so much hope, even though, like, we just watched humanity do unspeakable things. And yet there is still hope that, like, humanity is gonna do the right thing.
Well said.
So, yeah, we'll wrap it up there. We've got a few others that are kinda in the environmental bucket, but they also were kind of, I don't know, they were ones that we were like, we can make a case for them being environmental movies. And I mean, Ponyo's another one, which we've already talked about. But yeah, there are some others that you could make a case for, but we really do want to spend a lot of time talking about Ghibli. But Adam, what are we watching?
We are watching Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
We are indeed.
And
I will
something
be
else.
posting a poll. Yes, so I'll be posting a poll. There's 2 suggestions that have kind of come up to pair against Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and I think both of them could be interesting. One of them is Pride and Prejudice,
Okay.
and the other one is Ever After. I have not seen Ever After. So
I'm sure I have. It was one we owned, and I'm sure I saw enough of it between times that my sister was watching it, but I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened.
But it is the month of love, so I wanted to bring forth my favorite romantic film, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and we will be pairing it with something a little more heterosexual to appeal to our great audience.
Awesome. Yeah.
To pair it with.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, as always, if you're looking for ways to support our little show, we appreciate any sharing that you do on social media. Leave us ratings, reviews, share it. We are on Instagram primarily right now. We're always posting when there's a new episode out. And there's polls. We ask for thoughts and opinions. So interact with us. Also, like, share, follow the Instagram if you would. And we will catch you guys next time.
Thank you.